Thanks, Bob.
All right, Councillor Silvitz, we are live streaming.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Clerk. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Silvitz, Ward 5 Councillor and Chair of Heritage Richmond Hill. Welcome to the October 3rd Heritage Richmond Hill meeting. This afternoon's meeting is an electronic meeting being held pursuant to Section 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001. Please note that we have received regrets from committee members Nancy Spinks and Natasha Khan for today's meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written correspondence regarding agenda items by email to the clerk's office. All correspondence received by 12 p.m. noon yesterday has been included on the revised agenda. We received one item which is listed as agenda item 6.9. The public also had the opportunity to apply to appear as an electronic delegation by 12 p.m. noon yesterday, and we received one delegation request. The delegation has been listed on the revised agenda with reference to the agenda item they are speaking to. In addition, the clerk's office has received two other delegation requests today to address HRH committee. One from Tiziano Fantin regarding item 6.7 and one from Joyce Horner regarding item 6.2. If the committee consents, we can add these additional delegation requests to the adoption of the agenda when we move that item. Each delegation will be permitted 5 minutes to address the committee. We ask that the delegates please be respectful of the time. I ask that unless you are speaking, please keep your mics muted. We will be using a consent agenda approach for today's meeting. Because of the registered delegations and the verbal update by staff, agenda items 6.2, 6.7, and 6.8 will be separated out for discussion. After the delegation has been heard, I will ask committee members if there are any other items they would like to separate for discussion. At that time, you can either identify items that you would like to speak further to, or they will be the rest of the agenda will be adopted on consent. As chair of the committee, I now call the meeting to order, and I ask for a committee member to please give me a motion to adopt the agenda with the additions. Thank you, Agnes. So moved by Agnes. Sorry, guys. Okay. Ryan, could I have that on the screen, please? Okay, so this is the adoption of the agenda. I'll just read it once again. The agenda be adopted as distributed by the clerk with the following additions. A, delegation by Alexander Chang, 14 Vitana Road, Markham, regarding the notice of intention to designate 11644 Leslie Street, which is item 5.1. B, correspondence from Alexandra Fragiadakis on behalf of Ioannis Fragiadakis, 159 Mill Street, received September 29th, 2024, regarding notice of intention to designate 159 Mill Street, item 6.9. C, delegation by Tiziana Fontaine, 16 McLeod Estate Court, Richmond Hill, regarding item 6.7. And D, delegation by Joyce Horner, 32 Love Court, Richmond Hill, regarding item 6.2. So let's move forward. Ryan, do you want me to get approval on this first?
Thank you. To the chair, I think it's for if anyone wants to have any discussion, but it is on the floor for discussion.
Okay, thank you. And it has been moved. Okay, thank you very much. Our agenda is on the floor for discussion. So let us move to our agenda. Do I have any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof by any members of committee?
Sorry,
Ryan?
To the chair, sorry, if you can just call the vote
on that?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, you got it. Okay. On the adoption of the agenda, moved by committee member Parr, by a raising of hands by committee members. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those in favor? I don't know if my screen is frozen. Ryan, can you see me?
Yep, thank
Okay,
you.
I'm seeing it.
To the
Okay,
chair, it seems like it's carried unanimously.
thank you very much. Yeah, I think I've got a little bit of a freeze here. Okay, that carries, no one opposed. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now, agenda item 3, disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Anybody on committee who would want to attest to that? Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 4, which is the adoption of previous minutes. 4.1 is minutes. Heritage Richmond Hill meeting HRH 0624 held September 5th, 2024. And I trust that all members of committee have read the minutes. That the minutes of Heritage Richmond Hill committee meeting HRH 0624 held September 5th, 2024 be adopted. Could I have a mover for that from committee, please? Anybody? Just raise your hands. Ryan, I'm frozen again. If you could just tell me who's raising their hand.
Thank you. To the chair, it appears committee member Schreiber.
Thank you. So moved. Any comments? All those in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. I'm seeing them. Thank you. That seems to pass unanimously. No one opposed. Thank you. Unanimous. We'll go to agenda item 4.2. It's an extract. Council meeting C number 18-24 held September 11th, 2024. A, that the extract from council meeting C number 18-24 held September 11, 2024 regarding staff report SRPBS 24087 heritage permit for David Dunlap Observatory building repairs, city file D12-07228 be received. Could I have a member of committee move that for me, please? I see Councillor Davidson. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. And again, I trust everyone has read this. All those in favor, just raise your hands, members of committee. And that's a unanimous. No one opposed. Thank you. That's a unanimity. Okay. So we're going to move on. Of course, we have 2 delegations on agenda item 6.2. I'm going to keep those 2 together, and then we'll go to the delegate for 6.7. So, delegation, Alexander Chang for agenda item 6.2. I see him on screen. Just one moment, committee.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alexander. Thank you very much. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Okay, I represent the owner of 11644 Leslie Street. They're my parents, and they've owned the property since the late 80s. We've lived in there for at least from the late 80s to the mid 2000s. After that, we've been the property subject house has been rented out over time. So it's currently, the house is really in poor condition. So we do, once we receive the heritage designation letter, possible, my parents do object on getting that designation, because our idea was we were to plan to demolish it or donate it to this Richmond Hill if they can find a suitable location for it to be replaced, to be put on. That's what we wanted to do with the subject property. So the reason why there's currently a person that rents it, but it's pretty much we do not get any rent, because the subject property is their utilities is very high. The utilities is very substantially high because it's not efficient. It's just it's very expensive to heat the house. So that's where I come from. So I would like to, I don't know how, I've got the report of the heritage report, and we would like to see if we can come to a compromise on that. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Chang, thank you very much. I appreciate your words. let's go to the next delegate for item 6.2, Ms. Joyce Horner. Ms. Horner, you have the floor. If you could put your camera on and unmute yourself. Ms. Horner? I know she's there.
Yep, through the chair. Sorry, Ms. Horner. Yep, there you go.
There she is. Joyce, can you put your camera on or not?
I'm on split screen here. I'm trying to unmute. It's not
audio.
working.
No, you're unmuted now.
There. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you're unmuted. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry about the picture.
You have the floor for 5 minutes. No problem.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak to the committee and Councillor Silovitz. My name is Joyce Horner, and my family originally came here in 1804, had 200 acres on each side of Major Mackenzie between Leslie and Bayview. And the families had sorted it out and over the years subdivided our cemeteries over at Major Mackenzie and Leslie. It's got 12 people over there. So after they started coming across, then they went up Leslie Street to settle. And there is one other place that I think still survives, but this one that we're talking about now, up further on well, almost up to Rawlinson, I guess it is, at the top of the hill there, to the north of 19th Avenue, is I think the last remaining one that's up there, and it's also about the same age as the house I moved next door, the Cyrus Mapes house that used to be on 9920 Leslie. It's 31 Love Court now, which we the family moved around the corner and fixed it up. And to speak to the owner's concern or whatever about how bad it is, it's probably not had maintenance for quite a while. That's the problem. I mean, the house just doesn't survive unless you apply maintenance to it. It's not a magic pill for any building. It needs to be taken care of all the way along. Anyways, that's just what I thought of. But this house is very important. I know when I did some research, family research a while back, I found out that because I was a little community up there at 19th and Leslie area too. I'm not sure if they ended up giving it a name or not, but there was a Nye family member that had told me that when I guess it was, was it not diphtheria? One of the other ones. Anyway, one of the disease. What's that?
Spanish flu.
It says it in the report. It says it was one of the diseases of the 1870s or whatever. It's gone right out of my head. That the Horner House became a hospital, if you will, because the family or some children in there ended up with it. And I was told that other neighbors that had it also went in there so that everybody was together. So it became kind of like a community building, like a community hospital, I guess. So I would like to see it saved. I think it's part of the community. There's not many heritage houses left up that end. And as far as I know, that's the last one other than Donors across the road just before you get to Stouffville Side Road. So I'm very concerned about it being saved somehow. Is there any questions anybody would like to ask?
Thank you, Ms. Horner. No, we're good at this point. Thank you. Is that the end of your delegation?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Horner, just to confirm your address, is it 31 or 32 Love Court?
No, 32. 31 is the Mapes house.
32.
Yeah.
Right, you are 32. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Okay, now we'll go to the delegation for agenda item 6.7. And I'm sorry, I don't have that name in front of me. Let me look at my screen here.
Tiziano.
There, Mr. Tiziano Fanton. There it is.
Hi,
Okay.
Councillor Silvitz. How are you today?
I'm good, Mr. Fanton. Thank you so much. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the attendance at the last moment. Pamela Vega and I have been in correspondence with one another. I have a beautiful silver maple on the McLeod estate that has fallen down, and we were discussing obviously not only its removal, but we came up with an idea that I would like to have the tree signify an Indigenous sculpture. And at this point in time, I have an arborist that says that the root of the tree or the bottom trunk of the tree is so decayed that we wouldn't be able to carve the existing tree. But I'd like to work with the Tree Preservation Committee at the town of Richmond Hill at my cost to have an appropriate sculpture placed on the tree stump. Obviously, I have completed a cultural heritage impact assessment and wouldn't want to appropriate a sculpture or a carving that wouldn't be an indication of the Indigenous findings in that heritage study, and would like to work with the committee to honor the Indigenous who, for those who are not aware, Colonel McLeod, very important and is very positively related to the Indigenous, including Sitting Bull out west in McLeod, out in Calgary, if those of you guys who are familiar. So I'd like to have a statue placed on the tree rather than its removal. And I'll work with the committee. They can approve it all. I just want to go forward in preserving this property as best as I can. And I thought that was a good idea. If the committee would like me to remove the tree and plant another silver maple, I'm fine with that as well. All these costs are being borne by my family, and my kids and hopefully my grandkids will continue to honor the heritage of the estate and the individual of Gordon Gray, which I think some of you on the committee are very familiar with, who brought me in to preserve the McLeod estate and how important the preservation of the estate has been for the town of Richmond Hill, considering the few properties we have that have been preserved. And to Pamela and the individuals at the town of Richmond Hill who have visited me, in appreciation to them, my wife and I have preserved the estate along with Gordon Gray to its utmost perfection. So, having said that, that's my thoughts. However, my arborist says we cannot carve the tree as it is. We'd have to bring in a tree or a piece of wood from another site, which if there's something that has that can be procured through the town of Richmond Hill that is in their inventory that I think is Indigenous to the property, in terms of whether it's a silver maple or a black walnut stump that we can carve, I would like the appropriate cultural appropriation to be carved, and with the, of course, the approval of the historical committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fountain. We appreciate your coming forward to have this discussion. We will bring that forward shortly. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm getting this notice here that I've got an unstable internet connection, and that's why everybody keeps freezing. Okay, thank you. I'm in Montreal, so I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So that completes our delegations. Next, we will go. So, hang on. Sorry, I'm working from a few pieces of paper here. Let me look at my consent sheet. So, Ryan and Mr. Deputy Clerk, how do you want me to go to the next item? Because we want to extract 2.2, 0.7, and 0.8, but see if anything else wants to be extracted.
To the chair, that'd be correct. I would poll the members, committee members, to see if they want to separate any other items up for discussion. beyond 6.2, 6.7, and 6.8.
Okay, otherwise that is on the adoption of the agenda. Is that correct?
No, so after that
No.
happens, if any other items are pulled, we would need a motion
it.
for committee to adopt the remainder of the items that
The
haven't been
remainder.
separated.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Deputy Clerk. I appreciate that. So for the consent sheet, the items to be pulled for discussion are 6.2, 11644 Leslie Street, for which we have had 2 delegations. 6.7, the 16 McLeod Estate Court tree removal, for which we've had 1 delegation. And then 6.8 is a verbal update from Kunal Chaudhry to the committee. Is there anybody on committee who wishes to pull any other item other than those 3? If you do, please raise your hand. Seeing none. Okay, thank you. So what we will do now is we will move forward with item 6.2, which is the notice of intention to designate 11644 Leslie Street, City File D12 07275. And it goes from A to E. So
Apologies to the chair. If you just wouldn't mind, I guess asking a committee member to move a motion to adopt the remainder of the items that haven't been separated.
oh, we still have to do it. Okay, sorry. Okay,
That's all.
got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a motion from a member of committee to adopt the remaining items? Thought we'd already done that. Sorry, guys. Raise your hand. Agnes, thank you. Moved by committee member Agnes Parr. Thank you. All those in favor? Raise your hands. Any opposed? Nope, that appears to be a unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ryan. Okay, so now we're going to go to agenda item 6.2, as I've already read into the record. Could I have a member of committee move that forward, please, so that we can open it to discussion by the committee? Anyone on committee wants to move that forward? Raise your hand. Barbara DeMambro, thank you. Vice Chair DeMambro has moved that forward. As the mover, Barb, do you want to speak to it? I've lost her. No, there she is. Barb, do you wish to speak? Barb, can you let us know if you wish to speak to this item? Or if you just wish to move it? Okay, you're unmuted. I'm not hearing you. Ryan?
Thank you. To the chair, it appears that she is unmuted, but it doesn't seem like her audio is working. Microphone's working.
Okay. What should we do?
I would suggest probably moving on to another committee member if they would like to talk.
She's moved it onto the floor. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we do have item 6.2 moved to the floor. Is there any member of committee who wishes to address this matter? If you do, please raise your hands, either visually or with your little yellow hand, and we can move the discussion forward. Okay, seeing none. Then I would like to, yes, Ryan.
To the chair, Councillor Davidson.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Karen. I'm trying to find, I think I lost my window of the agenda, but which item is this we're deciding on?
6.2 for 11644 Leslie Street, the Horner House.
I would like to ask a few questions about that. Yes.
Perfect. And okay. And I see Councillor Thompson, I see your hand as a non-member of committee. You will be asked to go last if that's okay with you. Okay. So, Councillor Davidson, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you to the applicant. I just want to ask, so if the house is in a state that they haven't lived in a long time and it's cost prohibitive for this family to to live there, what is the financial? I feel like this, and I understand what they're saying. Can we move the house? I also think that's probably a huge expense that is not likely based on my understanding of moving houses, and maybe I'm wrong. What I feel like this designation, while important, puts the resident in a bind, and I'd like some advice as to how we can work on that. Because it's not like they're going to have to do
Okay, thank you.
extra. Sorry, it's not like they're going to have to do extra to sort of maintain the facade or maintain the building. They literally find it too expensive to live there. So what is the normal recourse for the owner?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davidson. Could I go to either Kunal or Pamela on that, please?
Sure. Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor Davidson. So, as far as the maintenance of the property goes, that is unfortunately, it's outside the purview of heritage planning. You know, the purpose of today's meeting is to designate the property, regardless of the condition and regardless of the state it's in. There are other bylaws in place which every property owner, regardless of being listed, designated, or just a standard property, have to meet. It's a property standards bylaw. So as far as being in a bind financially goes, unfortunately, again, designating the property will not change that. Designation does not imply they have to go and now repair certain attributes or items. They would have to do that regardless based on a property standards bylaw. So what the designation would do is it essentially protects the property from complete demolition, which, if we heard the delegation correctly, they actually admitted to. They admitted to saying they want to demolish the property. And
Right.
that's the purpose of protecting this property so it doesn't get demolished. There are other opportunities, for example, selling a property, and the designation does not prevent the sale of properties. Designation does not prevent additions to the home. So again, I feel like perhaps maybe just to help explain, that designation wouldn't prevent the repair or the maintenance
Right.
of the property.
But I mean, realistically, we're making this property, and I'm just trying to take the side of the resident. We're going to make this property more difficult to sell. They obviously can't use it in its current state. And I want to save the heritage part of it too. But imagine if you had a house that was too expensive to live in, and now someone's saying, okay, well, you can't, if you were thinking of demolishing it and putting something else there, that's not possible. They're saying they can't afford to fix it up enough to live in it now. We're basically rendering this property uninhabitable and useless. And I don't want to decide on this right now because I feel like this is a much bigger kettle of fish for this particular property.
So
I need more information and I need to understand.
Yeah.
That's all.
One moment, Councillor Davidson. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kunal.
Sorry, so through the chair, if I may, the designation of the property wouldn't prevent or impose any restrictions. The repair of the property, the sale of the property, additions to the property, maintaining the property, none of these are directly impacted by the designation. And it also does not impose anything. It does not render it unsellable. Perhaps that's it's a bit of a, if I can say, a bit of a misconception that designated properties cannot be sold. One could easily argue that a designated property makes you unique to a neighborhood. But again, unfortunately, this is not something that heritage planning considers when reviewing properties, because the condition of a property or the resale value of a property are not within the mandates of the Heritage Act. So it's not within the criteria, which is why heritage planning staff doesn't look into those to consider the designation of a property.
Right. And I appreciate that, but I feel like that's why we're here, to not just buy the book, not take into consideration the human beings that own the properties. So yeah, I feel like I need more time, and I know that's a real bummer because we have a clock running, but I would like to find out what's happened in other examples where the property owner has shown over the years they weren't living there because it wasn't feasible. They don't have the money to fix it up. And now this designation, I agree with you. You can still sell it, but obviously, well, Okay, I just feel like I don't have a solid in my mind right answer here. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Davidson, thank you. And I can appreciate that. You are a member of committee and you have one vote. So when we do get to the vote, unless you want to pass an amendment, yeah, when we do get to the vote, you can show us your approval or disapproval thusly. Thank you. Okay, so just before we go to Councillor Thompson, I'll just make my statement. Thank you to both delegates. I must side with the Horner family on this matter. There is no question in my mind that this property and this built asset needs to be identified, and I believe, as was heard by everyone on this call, and it would now be a part of the public record, that the delegate did state that they want to demolish the house. So to me, that is a huge red flag, and it's a huge, huge concern. The Horner family has a remarkable history in Richmond Hill. And this house, as Ms. Horner stated, served a secondary function then as a hospital as disease spread through the area. And I do believe that there is extensive evidence here that shows its necessity to designate under the Act. So I will absolutely be voting for this. And if anybody else on committee would like to make a statement, I don't see anyone. Okay, we're going to go to Councillor Thompson. Okay, Bob on the first round. One moment, Councillor Thompson. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. You know, just kind of echoing, I think, what Councillor Davidson indicated, and maybe we can get more clarity, or maybe the staff needs to come back with a more clear with what remedies the city actually have to force basically the proper maintenance and upkeep of the property. You know, I don't understand like what is actually feasible for the property owner at this point if it designated to just let the house go into total disrepair, as like many construction companies have done. You know, and is there any other solutions that we can work with a property owner to perhaps incorporate portions of the house, ensure that we have plans to either renovate it? You know, if we get designated, I appreciate Kamar's point about that it can still be sold, but I mean, if a purchaser is looking to do something different on that property, and it's imposed that they have to work with the whatever remnants of that building and whatever state of repair it actually is, your number of buyers is going to be incredibly low unless the city is willing to purchase a property at fair market value, what it would be worth if a more modern and upkept proper structure was in place.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's all try to stick to the agenda item, please, as it is written. I understand Bob's concerns, but please remember that we are the Heritage Richmond Hill Committee, and we are here in an attempt to protect and save and designate historical properties, whether they be built assets or actual land, in order to protect the history and the cultural history of our city. So I just wanted to mention that. And another thing I wanted to mention before I go to Timothy, who's our next speaker, is that we've spoken of demolition by neglect very often when it comes to matters such as this. So with all respect to the current owner, in my opinion, this is demolition by neglect. This house has been left to basically dissolve into the ground, but that is not something that action is their action. Our action is to do whatever we can, if approved as a majority, to do whatever we can to protect this house and its history. So I just wanted to get that in there. Members of committee, please be very aware of that. Okay, our next speaker on the first round, Timothy, go ahead. Timothy, you're muted.
Okay, through the
Thank you.
chair, I just share the concern of Councillor Davidson and also Bob, and although we are here to decide whether we should designate a property, but if we designate a property where it is not maintained or is destituted, such that really it is not in any good shape to stand up on its own. So why should we not wait and try to sort out if the solution can be whether it can be maintained properly before we go ahead and consider destination? In other words, uh, rather than just designate the property as it is without knowing how good the maintenance can be and all that. Can we not wait until we can find a solution to see how the maintenance can be done to make it like a proper property that it can stand up for as heritage, as an example of heritage, first before we go ahead and do the final approval. That's
Okay,
my
Tim.
that's my comment.
Okay, Timothy, thank you. Thank you. Again, I remind this committee that the delegates stated that they wanted to demolish the house. Okay, Agnes, you are next on the first round.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want to state that I completely side with the Horner family. They do have an extensive history in Richmond Hill, and this house also has an extensive history. And as has already been stated, the owner did state and use the word demolition, and I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah.
And the other factors, I completely understand where the homeowner's coming from, but they do fall under the property standards maintenance, which Kumal addressed. And I 100% support the Horner family and the designation of this property.
Thank you, Agnes. Okay, now if I don't see any other hands raised by committee on first round, I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much for recognizing me for the committee here. Actually, I think Kunal is actually the question that I also had, and that was basically outside of the demolition. Designation is not going to prevent any of the other concerns that were raised by the delegate, and it seems to me that whether they wanted to donate it or see if it could be moved and all those things, those options are still there. The only one that's being removed here would be the demolition one, of which I would certainly support if and when this comes to council. So those are my comments. Thank you for allowing me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to add anything on the second round? Okay, the only thing I would like to, okay, Councillor Davidson, go ahead. Second round, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll be really quick. You're quite right about the property standards, although I like it wasn't a problem till the heritage, leaving a house empty is not in itself a bad thing to do as a member of this community. But, and if it had been, I just have a quick question for Kamal. Would the expectation of upkeep of the house been any different, whether it was designated or not designated, in terms of it being sort of an abandoned and starting to be dilapidated house? Is there more of a push by staff to ensure that the house is maintained once it's designated heritage?
Kunal?
So through the chair, there is an existing property standards bylaw, which every property has to meet, regardless of being listed, designated, or what I'm going to call the standard property. Once a property is designated, staff often do checks on these designated properties. If we find an infraction to the property standards bylaw, which also contains a component for designated properties, we will typically send out bylaw enforcement to that property. So there are checks in place for this. However, even if this property is not designated or listed, the property standards bylaw still applies. So
Thank
they
you.
would still have to maintain. Yes. Okay.
And can I just, can I confirm through you, Madam Chair, and ask you, Madam Chair, if we pass this designation today, there's still a final opportunity for the owner to appear before council. Is that right?
Absolutely. That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. I will support the designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Anybody else on the second round? Seeing none. Okay. So the motion we have on the floor for 6.2 to designate 11644 Leslie Street. Could we have that on the screen, please, Mr. Deputy Clerk? Thank you. It was moved by Committee Member Barb DeMambro. A, that staff report SRP BS 24081 regarding notice of intention to designate 11644 Leslie Street be received. B, that council state its intention to designate the property at 11644 Leslie Street under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act in recognition of its cultural heritage significance and in accordance with the Statement of Significance, 11644 Leslie Street attached as Attachment A to Staff Report SRPBS 24081. C, that staff be directed to publish and serve council's notice of intention to designate as per the requirements of the Ontario Heritage Act. D, that if there are no objections to the designation in accordance with the provisions of the Ontario Heritage Act, that staff be directed to place a designation bylaw before council at a future council meeting for adoption. E, that staff be authorized and directed to do all things necessary to give effect to this resolution. So that is the motion on the floor. Mr. Deputy Clerk, I ask for a recorded vote, please.
Thank you very much. So we're voting on the motion that's on the floor. Recorded vote. Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Committee Member DeMambro. I take that as a yes with your hand up. Committee Member Schreiber. I think that's a yes. Committee Member Parr.
Yes.
Yes. Committee Member Cheng.
Yes.
Committee Member McLeod.
Yes.
Committee Member Mayor Irwin.
Yes.
Committee Member Ivsina. Yes. Committee Member Garub Day.
Yes.
Apologize for the mispronouncing your name. Councillor Davidson.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you, committee. Okay. Going on to our next one is 6.7. So this is SRPBS 24091 Heritage Permit for 16 McLeod Court tree removal, City File number D1207230. So, Mr. Deputy Clerk, could I have that on the screen, please, so we can have someone move this forward? Thank you. So as it reads here that the staff report regarding heritage permit for 16 McLeod Estate Court be received for the tree removal, that council direct heritage planning staff to work with the owners of 16 McLeod Estate to secure an Indigenous artist who will convert the stump of the fallen silver maple tree described in staff report SRPBS 24091 into a design that commemorates the area's Indigenous heritage, and C, that the heritage permit application to formally recognize the removal of the fallen silver maple tree at 16 McLeod Estate Court, as described in staff report SRPBS 24091, be approved. Could I have a member of committee bring that forward for discussion, please? Mr. Deputy Clerk, can you help me? I don't see it. Oh, there, Councillor Davidson. Thank you. Okay, so moved by Councillor Davidson. So Councillor Davidson, I'm going to go to you first for your comments and discussion, bearing in mind what we were told by the delegate.
Right.
But what is on the floor now? What is on the floor right now is the motion in front of us.
Right, through you, Madam Chair. But the delegate paints a picture that's not quite exactly the same. And I think this delegate, I've seen that estate. It's gorgeous. I think they act in good faith. I think they do maintain the integrity of this property. And is there a rush here? He asked for help, for staff's advice and work with staff, and has mentioned his expense many times. Is there any problem with allowing that before we vote definitively on this as the staff see it?
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. I agree with you. Deputy Clerk Ben, I need your direction, please. So if we were taking into account what the delegate said, would it be appropriate at this time for us, and if Kunal would like to add anything as well, to move an amendment to bring this forward to our next Heritage Richmond Hill Committee meeting, to allow for discussion with our staff, with the landowner, etc.
Thank you. To the chair, certainly it can be a motion to defer to the next Heritage Richmond Hill meeting. As you're aware, committee cannot direct staff to do anything without council approval. So sort of say a motion to refer, certainly if it goes through, that would be brought forward to committee of the whole and then council, and then in which case, that would happen. Now, I believe the next meeting of the Heritage Richmond Hill is, if they want to find it, November 7th. So I'm not sure what, I think perhaps Canal may be able to provide some insight into what the delegate has stated and what is the motion on at hand here. But I think a motion to defer certainly is possible to the next Heritage Richmond Hill meeting.
So
thank you, Kunal.
Through the chair and to Councillor Davidson, thank you for the question. You are right to say what you said. You are correct. There have been certain changes. And unfortunately, sometimes these changes occur because of conditions on site. And as the delegate reported, they said that because the arborist noted the stump isn't strong enough to take a carving, which is why they have to change their direction. However, I do want to note that in the staff report, we do mention that the property owner has agreed to continue to work with staff on this. So at this point, the staff report is about recognizing the removal of a fallen tree. And it's about the fact that instead of replacing the tree, it will be about placing an art form on the stump. I also do want to remind everyone that there is unfortunately a timeline that we have to meet. So when a heritage permit comes in, the Ontario Heritage Act mandates a timeline within which council has to take a decision on the permit. A lack of a decision means an automatic consent. So while yes, as Ryan mentioned, that can be deferred. However, I believe we cut it very close to the timeline, and we may not be able to make it back in time for a December HRH meeting. We may already have crossed the time period, the 90-day time period, unfortunately.
Well, can I ask, but the motion specifically says that the stump will be made into, what you just said was in the spot, something else could be put, say, for example, another piece of significant wood could be carved and put on top of the stump or with the stump or whatever, instead of actually carving the stump or doing the artwork on the stump that doesn't seem to necessarily be able to sustain that. Can we just take that part out and say something about continuing to work with staff? Because this seems in contravention of what the homeowner is telling us is possible, and I don't know what the right answer is.
So through the
Deputy
chair,
Clerk
yes.
Ben.
I apologize. Sorry.
That's okay. Deputy Clerk Ben, what is your best direction to us here? Add or support? What should we do?
Thank you. To the chair. So certainly at this time, Councillor Davidson has moved a motion. That doesn't preclude her from, I want to say amending, but she can withdraw and put forward a different motion that may be substantially similar to what has been discussed. I think I probably need to work with Canal to craft what these differences happen to be. But
See, I
that's
feel
certainly
like if we just, oh, through you, Madam Chair, if we just said to secure an Indigenous artist who will work with the homeowner and staff to place a piece of art at the, at the location of the tree, or something that doesn't hog tie them to that stump if it's not going to work out.
Okay, so Councillor Davidson, do you want to withdraw your motion on the floor?
Yes, as is. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Ryan, will you please direct us what to do next?
Thank you. Through the chair, give me 1 second. I'm just putting something together.
Okay.
And I think it's not so much, correct me if I'm wrong here, not to convert the stump, but I'd say to work, to secure an Indigenous who will work with staff and the homeowner to place,
Yes.
I'd say, a piece of art. Is that, I don't think that's the right term, to be fair, but to place, and I think it was something of
A
artistic
design,
merit.
we can keep the design that commemorates the area's Indigenous heritage, something, and works with the homeowner to incorporate a design that into a design, or incorporates something that's not into, because again, that hog ties them to the stump.
Okay. Bear with me while I craft this on the fly here. To incorporate. Okay, I'm just going to put something up, and perhaps everyone can help me. There we go. So I'm just going to highlight something where I think it probably needs some assistance. So if I can just bring it up here. So to secure an Indigenous artist who will work with staff. Sorry, who will work with staff. And the homeowner to incorporate a design that commemorates the area's Indigenous heritage. And then I think it's sort of where I'm here is, I don't know if it's close to the stump or on the stump. I think it actually might be on the stump, but I'm perhaps.
How about at the stump, at the location of the stump, which doesn't preclude a stump carving if it ends up that's possible. At the stump location, or I don't know. I guess we should. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
Kunal, how does that sound to you?
Sorry, one moment. I was trying to craft a sentence myself as well. To incorporate a design. Perhaps it's my concern is when we say the word incorporate, it may imply incorporating within the stump. So I don't think we've necessarily addressed the issue. Through the chair, I believe the concern is that if we need to remove the stump in its entirety and place something there in place of it, I believe that's what I'm hearing. So it allows the flexibility based on the condition of the stump. So maybe the sentence could read as to work with staff and the homeowner to install a design that commemorates install a design within the location of the stump of the fallen silver maple.
Yes.
And then the sentence could continue within the location of the stump of I think that perhaps might work better. I believe that addresses Councillor's concern.
Thank you.
Okay, let's read this one more time. So Councillor Davidson, will you move that motion to the floor?
Yes, I'd like to move that motion to the floor.
Okay, great.
Madam
Okay, so
Chair.
I'm just going to read it again. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. So that staff report regarding heritage permit. Hang on a minute. Sorry, I've got another window up here. That heritage permit for 16 McLeod Estate Court tree removal be received. B, that council direct heritage planning staff to work with the owners of 16 McLeod Estate Court to secure an Indigenous artist who will work with staff and the homeowner to install a design that commemorates the area's Indigenous heritage within the location of the stump of the fallen silver maple tree, described in Staff Report SRPBS 24091, into a design that commemorates the area's Indigenous heritage. Well done. C, that the heritage permit application to formally recognize the removal of the fallen silver maple tree at 16 McLeod Estate Court, as described in the staff report, be approved. Okay, so we had that is on the floor. Mr. Deputy Clerk, if I could see everyone on screen now, please. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Davidson. We've read it. You've all seen it. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go to our last item to be discussed, which is item 6.9. Of course, no, sorry, not 6.9, 6.8. Sorry, 6.8, Heritage Designation Strategy and Heritage Planning to date in 2024. A verbal update by Kunal Chaudhry, Manager, Heritage and Urban Design. Kunal, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Through the chair, I wanted to provide the committee with an update of the year so far. I know at this point we're beyond the halfway point of the year, but I do believe an update today is going to provide a more comprehensive overview of what 2024 has been so far with the committee. We have processed 8 heritage permit applications, which include repair and maintenance work for the DDO. Our grant program was successful with 7 grants offered earlier this year, and heritage planning staff is constantly following up to ensure the timely completion of these individual projects that were offered the grant money. This year, we also began to implement the heritage designation strategy that was developed last year as a response to Bill 23, which resulted in the city having to pursue designation more proactively as a result of a timeline that was imposed where the listing status of heritage properties would be removed and the protection that comes with it. Through 3 batches, the third having come forward today, at today's meeting, heritage planning staff have recommended the designation of 22 properties to Heritage Richmond Hill Committee, and council, before today's date, has supported 19 of those properties, the designation of 19 of those properties. Batch 3, as you see, has come forward today and will be going forward to the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 16th and the subsequent October 23rd council meeting for council's consideration. And after that date, we will have a more final number on how many properties have been designated in 2024. We have also received during this time a formal notice of objection for 1 property and 1 notice of appeal. The notice of objection was considered by council at last week's council meeting as required by the Heritage Act, where a majority of council members reaffirmed their intention to designate the property. The appeal is now with the Ontario Land Tribunal, known as the OLT, and the final decision will be theirs to take. They could either dismiss the appeal or they could require that council repeal the designation bylaw which was passed to designate that property. I do also want to remind the committee that by virtue of Bill 200, we have been granted an extension to the Bill 23 deadline, which was essentially the end of this year. The Bill 200 now grants an extension across Ontario till December 31st, 2026 to consider the designation of properties before they automatically lose their listed heritage status. So heritage planning staff will continue to evaluate properties that were identified with the help of the subcommittee last year in 2023. And we're happy to say that this year we've been able to achieve the target of evaluating high value and priority properties that meet multiple Ontario Heritage Act mandated criteria. So I'd like to take this moment to remind committee members that the work involved in the research and the evaluation of individual property is very time intensive and requires a very surgical analysis before we bring it forward to the committee and to council members. During this time intensive implementation of the process, sometimes it's very possible that changes to a property may come up. There might be repairs, there might be maintenance, properties are sometimes sold, ownership statuses change. But I do want to remind committee members that our designation strategy still continues. These changes do not impact our strategy. We continue to look at these properties regardless of any status changes. So on that note, and on behalf of Heritage Planning staff at the city, I'd like to thank the committee members for their time and commitment in protecting our heritage assets throughout this year. And we're looking forward to continue to work with you next year and the following year to continue to designate our properties. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kunal. Greatly appreciated. And I'm sure I say this on behalf of the entire committee. We are extremely grateful and appreciative for all the work that our Heritage City staff does in order to bring everything forward to us so we can bring it forward to council in order to get our final approvals. So do I have a member of committee who would bring forward Kunal's verbal update, please? So we have it on the floor for discussion, if any. Just raise your hand if you wish to bring this forward, please. Thank you, Agnes. Okay, with thanks, thank you very much. Moved by committee member Agnes Parr. Do you wish to comment, Agnes?
Yes, I do. I want to thank Kumal for his update. And I just have one question for him. Which is the property that's gone to appeal?
It is, just give me one moment, please. I want to make sure before I make a mistake. It is property. The exact address is, yes, it is 111 Richmond Street. Sorry, through the chair.
111 Richmond Street.
That's okay.
All right. So that's the same one that went to objection, wasn't it?
Through the chair.
No, that's the appeal.
They went straight to the appeal.
Okay, but it went to objection before, but they went on to appeal now.
So through
Do
the
I
chair,
understand
they
that
do
correctly?
have through the chair, yes, they do have the
One
ability
moment,
to object.
Agnes.
Sorry. So through the chair,
No,
they do have the ability to object and then appeal. This one had gone straight to an appeal.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Agnes. Is that all? Thank you.
Sorry.
Anybody
yes.
else on committee? That's okay. Thank you. I saw the nod. Anybody else on committee wish to have any comments here? Go ahead, Timothy. I see your hand up.
Through the chair, I also wish to thank Cornell and the planning committee or the planning staff of the cities to have done such a great job putting forward so many properties for destination. Just a question is looking ahead for the next 2 years. It's still a lot of work to be done. Do we have a strategy for the next couple of years to see how many properties we can manage to put forward for destination?
Through the chair.
Kunal?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Committee Member Cheng. So currently our strategy is to continue bringing forward properties in batches. We don't have an exact number. This year was actually a good test of understanding how time intensive the evaluation and the research actually is. So unfortunately, having said that, we can't give a definitive number on how many properties, but with our meetings with the subcommittee last year, I think we've identified certain priorities and we will be working with those priority properties first.
Thank you, Kunal. Timothy, anything further?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you for the chair, madam.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else on committee want to raise your hand to ask any questions or comments, make any comments here? Okay, seeing none. So we have on the floor a motion moved by Agnes Parr. Ryan?
To the chair, committee member Schreiber would like to.
Oh, she would like to speak. Okay, I don't see her on my screen at all. Okay, there you are. Okay, committee member Schreiber, please go ahead. Unmute your mic.
I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you, Kunal, for your updates. I'm wondering about getting a copy of the standard, the policy regarding the property standards, if that would be something that would inform us about what's going on with updates on the properties regarding designation.
So through the chair,
Okay.
what we have is a property standards bylaw.
Right.
If that's what you are referring to, then I will talk to our clerk's departments to see how we can get that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks, Joanne. Is that all? Yeah, thank you. It might be a good thing to have that sent to us through the clerk's office, just so that members of committee who are not members of council have a better understanding of the property standards bylaw. Thank you very much. We will make sure we do that. Agnes, I see your hand up. Just one moment. Is there anybody else on the first round?
Sorry.
Not Joanne. No. Okay. Seeing none, no more on the first round. I have no real comments other than just as once again to say thank you very much to Kunal and staff for that update. Okay. Second round. Agnes, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, to Kunal. Are you going to be reconvening the subcommittee in moving forward for the designation of more properties, or what's going to happen then?
So through the chair, thank you for the question, Committee Member Parr. I believe that last year through those subcommittee meetings, we were able to identify quite a handful of properties that we put into different categories. And we still have quite a few of them to go through. So we already have marching orders based on the subcommittee. So at this point, I think we're in a good place to continue with the strategy as we have it. But should anything change, we'd be happy to consider reconvening with the subcommittee committee. With the subcommittee, sorry.
Thank you. Agnes, was that satisfactory?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the update. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on the second round here? No. Okay, that's good. So in closing, I would like to say that I believe that 19 out of 22 properties to have received their official designations, I think is absolutely remarkable. And I'm sure staff would agree with that. So thank you very much to staff and to all members of committee, and especially the members of the subcommittee. I think we've done a bang up job here. Thank you very, very much. Our next item on our agenda is agenda 7, which is adjournment. Our next meeting is for November the 7th. May I, Ryan?
Sorry, to the chair, if you could call the vote on 6.8, please.
Oh, I didn't call the vote. My bad. I'm so sorry. Okay, calling the vote on receiving with thanks Kunal Chaudhary's update. Everyone who approves, raise your hands. I'm slightly frozen here, Ryan. There we go. Okay, thank you. Anyone against? No? Okay, thank you. I believe we have a unanimous there. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, now let's go back to 7 for adjournment. Our next committee meeting is November the 7th. Could I have a motion from someone on committee for adjournment, please? Raise your hand. If I can see a hand. Ryan, help me. Okay, Councillor Davidson. I see Councillor Davidson. Thank you. My apologies for my bad internet connection here. Councillor Davidson has moved for adjournment. All those in favour, raise your hands. Thank you. Ryan, am I seeing unanimous?
To the chair, yes, looks to be unanimous.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much again to staff, members of committee, Councillor Thompson. Again, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you with us at Heritage Richmond Hill Committee meetings. So that's it. We are adjourned, everybody.